Hey, welcome to my video on Ankara. So I'm just getting a bus from Ankara airport. From Ankara airport to Ankara centre, I hope, fingers crossed.
Just cross your fingers. Alright, fingers crossed.
Google has been absolutely diabolical on this trip so far.
Well, that sucks.
Google doesn't know most of the roads when I've been navigating. I think, why don't you switch to Waze? I did that. Waze doesn't have half the roads.
Dwight, it said go to the right.
It can't mean that. There's a lake there.
I think it knows where it is going.
This is the
The
lake.
machine
This
knows.
is the lake.
Stop yelling at me.
No, it's
Stop
not
yelling.
there. There's no road here.
So Google has been my sort of go-to device to sort of, try and get around. I usually use Google Maps, get directions. So far, it hasn't helped. So fingers crossed that this takes me to the centre. Then from the centre, I can find my accommodation. That's the plan, at least.
Got my fingers crossed. Crossed. Crossed. Crossed.
I guess it's kind of fitting that the crescent moon is out, and as I'm in the capital of Turkey, the symbol on their flag is a crescent moon and a star. And you can't really see it, but there's the crescent moon, and what some people would say is a star, but it's not a star, it's actually Venus. But almost right on top of each other. It's quite fitting as I arrive in the capital. The only thing missing is the sky being red, but I saw that as the sun was setting, so now just onwards to find my place to live. Check this out. All of the alcoholic drinks are blurred out. You can't show alcohol on television.
Later. The next morning.
Hey, so first real day in Ankara. Feel at home, the pigeons are here. Always feel safe in knowing that you're in the familiar place, even though you've never been here before, when you see lots of pigeons. And it's one of these weird things. Pigeons are everywhere in the world, and despite the fact people think they're flying rats, they're really not. They're actually quite intelligent birds. So just take time, say hello to them. These are, they may even speak your language. You never know.
I feed the pigeons. I sometimes feed the sparrows too. It gives me a sense of enormous well-being.
So the ambition is to go and see as much as possible. I've had a good breakfast. My stomach is very full. Last night I had shared shisha with some locals and had a good meal. Listened to some live music, and now it's time to go explore. So right behind me is one of the guards that sort of guards this exhibition, this entire amazing place. What's interesting is actually in a sort of glass box. Fortunately, the glass box is open. That's a real person behind me. So here I am at the Mustafa Kemal. How would one describe it? It's the sort of his tomb is somewhere here. It's the sort of monument to who he was. The man died in 1938. He was born sort of, I can't remember now, sort of mid 19th century. He lived a long life. He certainly lived an eventful life. One of his major successes and the reason he became the first president of Turkey was he fought as a general and incredibly bravely in the Battle of Gallipoli, which is was just above the old Constantinople, where the Russians, the British, significantly the Australians and the New Zealanders fought extremely bravely against the old Ottoman Empire. It was one of the few battles the Ottoman Empire actually won before the Ottoman Empire crumbled. And it was because of Mustafa Kemal's bravery in that battle. He was effectively promoted and able to win around the people of what is now Turkey to become Turkey's first president. And some may argue, there was a few sort of problems in that. He was a lieutenant during the Armenian genocide, which took place in 1915. However, he didn't rise to prominence until I think 1921. So was he indirectly involved in the Armenian genocide, which claimed the lives of countless number of Armenians, where people were walked to death, where people were gassed, where people were drowned, and it's still a black spot on the Turkish history. But ignoring that, to the Turkish people, he was a standout president, and he deserving of this magnificent monument. One of the significant things he did was he sort of moved this Turkish state into a more secular state, moving it away. He abolished Sharia law, which is a good thing, although it's definitely under Erdogan creeping back into the country. And he gave women the vote in 1930. That was certainly ahead of his time, certainly for a non-Western nation. 1930 was one of the earlier nations where women got the vote. And for that, we must commend him. However, I know there's going to be a lot of Armenians in the comments below that will say, we do not like that guy. There's going to be a lot of Turks in the comments below saying what a wonderful man he was. I'm unsure. Generally, I'm unsure. However, this is the #1 tourist attraction in Ankara, and I'm here just to sort of pay my respects, and also not just to pay my respects. I'm here just to check it out and just sort of take it in, because you can see it's moving a lot of Turkish people, but it's also attracting a lot of tourists. So this is why I'm here. The display I'm currently in, which is obviously a little bit noisy due to the number of tourists in here, houses a collection of all of his books, some quite impressive books. I'm not sure how many of these books he read. I'm sure fans will say all of them, of course, but there's some impressive books from linguistics to war to philosophy to just picking up a random one over here. Periodical statistics. mean, the guy was incredibly well educated, clearly. And this is where his body has been laid to rest. It was the second president who commissioned this effectively massive tomb. It was 9 years after he died, and kind of fitting that the second president, I think his name was Izmir, is laid on the opposite side, which is the sarcophagus that you'd seen earlier. And this is obviously him laying to rest.
The name of Ataturk brings to mind the historic accomplishments of one of the great men of this century. His inspired leadership of the Turkish people, his perceptive understanding of the modern world, and his boldness as a military leader. It is to the credit of Ataturk and the Turkish people that a free Turkey grew out of a collapsing empire, and that the new Turkey has proudly proclaimed and maintained its independence ever since.
Just to note, I'm actually not allowed to be filming.
Top Gun rules of engagement exist for your safety and for that of your team. They are not flexible, nor am I. Either obey them or you are history. Is that clear?
I think it's to do with the fact that they want people to visit, just pay their respects, but also just it keeps the secrecy of the place. But right under here, we're walking under the tomb that we just saw that was above. It's quite an extraordinary building, but just letting you know.
We have so many rules in life about everything. I say break the rules, not the law, but break the rules. It is impossible to be a maverick or a true original if you're too well behaved and don't want to break the rules. You have to think outside the box. That's what I believe. After all, what is the point of being on this earth if all you want to do is be liked by everyone and avoid trouble? The only way that I ever got any place was by breaking some of the rules.
So right now I'm right under the area which was the tomb which we saw upstairs. I wasn't allowed to film in the area where there were artifacts, obviously his personal belongings such as shaving kits, knives, cufflinks, the things dignitaries are given to him, which was quite extravagant. But in this room I'm allowed to film. As you know, I'm not, I'm just in a sign that says no filming. Well, everyone else is. The paintings obviously illustrate different things that he took part in. The War of Gallipoli, which you just saw, was him. It was a panoramic sort of painting of him on the front line fighting the Allies, which is what I would say anyway. And quite an impressive collection of art.
Certainly there is no more successful example of national self-reliance than the birth of the Turkish Republic and the profound changes initiated since then by Turkey and Ataturk. Ataturk was deeply interested in the friendly relations that have traditionally existed between Turkey and the United States. He noted our democratic governments and once said prophetically, "We are friends now, and we will be much closer friends in the future." Our present close alliance can be traced to the firm base prepared by Ataturk for free government in an independent Turkey. I am proud that the United States can be a partner in this alliance, linking us to the country of Ataturk and to the ideals which Ataturk helped establish in Turkey and the world. I salute this great man.
There's certainly a lot of patriotism here, a lot of sort of music to sort of get the people going, a lot of music to get the people to sort of feel for the country. Very similar to Soviet Union patriotism in my mind, but I could be wrong.
15 minutes later. Later.
I think this can be described as Ankara's old town, except obviously being redeveloped, everything made it to look nice. You could see a few shots of what the buildings look like before they've gone into repair. But as you see there, scaffolding is up. Those buildings will look as nice as these buildings. It's all looking very immaculate, it's all looking very Disneyland-like. And when I say Disneyland-like, a few misconceptions, because I said this about Skopje. I said it was a sort of Disneyland. I don't mean it. It just means that everything's sort of made to look nice. Fountains, nice paving stones. That's what Disneyland does. It doesn't mean I think it's Disneyland. See, this gives you some perspectives on the vastness of the city. It is a big city. Of course it's a big city, it's the capital.
Big, it's huge! Huge!
Quite a view. If you get up to these sort of vantage points, and we're not particularly high, you'll sort of appreciate sort of how big it is, and how much the city is just sort of urban sprawl. What we just saw there was the temple of Augustus, one of the greatest Roman leaders that ever lived. Certainly he achieved a lot in his lifetime, and the temple stood for a good 4 centuries, maybe 5. Then there was a church, then it was incorporated into a church, and then obviously came the Islamification of this region, and it was just like it was knocked down. The Islamic State always knock these things down. If it isn't Islamic, they will knock it down. 2 mosques were built there, and now a brand new mosque has been built there, right next to it. Fortunately, not this time, not on top of it, because the excavations realised how important the Temple of Augustus was and is. So now we have this new mosque right behind me. So I just went inside this mosque. Actually, very nice inside, very simple, very plain. Sort of wooden panels on the ceiling, carpets on the floor. Most people were just praying when I walked in. I had to take my shoes off. Women weren't allowed in the same entrance that I was allowed in. At least that's what I could see. It looked like they were going in the side entrance. I could have been mistaken, but that's how it seemed. Interesting sight. But to be honest, more interesting is the Temple of Augustus. It's ranked far lower on the TripAdvisor rankings because it's just effectively rubble. But just the significance of it is far more significant than a 18th century mosque.
From animals.
Animal?
For people.
Goats, sheep, cows. Yeah. Wow. Amazing. One of the things that I can't obviously portray on a video is the smells. Obviously, right.
You smell that? What is that?
What?
What's that smell?
Obviously, right now, a huge smell of amazing spices.
My God. What is that smell? Oh.
That's the smell of desire, my lady.
One of the things you saw hanging up there was natural skin to make sausages. What did they make the skin from? The bowels from an animal, you know, literally the intestines, hanging to dry. There's some actually up here, just to give you an example of, I've not seen this before, but that is intestines, and there you can stuff meat in there and make your own sausages. It's quite cool. I just want to give you an example of the food I've been eating in Turkey pretty much every day actually. This food here is the cheese that we have in the mornings. It's quite delicious. Okay, thank you.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Clever girl. That's impressive. You can hang upside down now, yeah? Yeah, I like that. I'm your friend. Why do we need to keep these guys? Kriminality bird ended up here. Jump. Oh, Jesus. That's what's going on in there. This guy's getting eaten to death. Yeah, sorry guys. So oh my God. Got everything. Wow. Hello.
Çok güzel bir tane yavru kalkan var. Sevsin. Almasın sevsin. Seni alma. Yani kafes alırsan yemini suyunu her şeyini ayarlar. Yani sana şöyle söyleyeyim bak.
This just goes on and on and on. I generally feel physically disgusted. I feel sick. I mean, it's appalling. We're treating these animals like they're commodities. They're in cramped conditions. The birds are pecking on each other. Could you imagine? This is just giants walking around prisons, deciding on whether they're going to keep these people in cages for the rest of their life, or eat them, or just to be thrown away, or to be given to a child. The child enjoys it for a few weeks, then forgets about it, then the animal gets thrown out in the trash or shut down the toilets. This is who we are. The way as a species, other species will look upon us in generations and see how, and just think we are medieval in what we're doing right now. This is purely medieval. This is disgusting. I'm going to document a little bit more because I think it needs to be seen, but not for entertainment value. I'm literally going to document it because I think it's disgusting. It really is disgusting. Also to see what else, what other horrors I see. To be honest, I changed my mind. I went downstairs. There was a lot of pigeons in cages. I needed to get out of that place. I felt. It's not a good thing to do. Ankara, it's not a good way to live. Keep animals in cages like that. In my mind, I think it was disgusting. I honestly think it's disgusting. But you know, this is just who I am.
That makes me angry. And when Dr. Evil gets angry, Mr. Bigglesworth gets upset. And when Mr. Bigglesworth gets upset, people die!
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. I feel refreshed. I just did what I did in Istanbul. I went to a Turkish barber, had a Turkish haircut, 10 lira, and by today's exchange rate, which is about 8 to the pound, that was about, it's about £1.30 or so, £1.20. That's the cheapest haircut I've ever had, all because the exchange rate is now in my favour for once.
It's a deal. It's a steal. It's sale of the fucking century.
I gave him 15. I think it was the same in Istanbul, but obviously the exchange rate has literally worsened since then by almost 40%. So it's pleasing. It's certainly in my advantage. I feel sorry for the Turks. I know how it feels. The pound has fallen dramatically against the dollar and the euro. all because of the globalists. That's the way the globalists win. Time for prayer. You hear that? Or, in my case, time for some baklava.
Ne diyor? Bir buçuk kanat bir Adana.
I've just come across this new Turkish drink. Well, it's not new, obviously. It's new to me, though. Apparently, it's made of yogurt, and you saw it in the tap. I thought the dishes were being washed at first because it was sort of, but it turns out it's not. So let's see what this tastes like. Here we go. It's okay. It's not bad. It tastes of yogurt. It's sort of a light yogurt. Yo, so it feels like I'm on top of the world right here in Ankara. I know I'm not that high, although Ankara is high. This high, in fact. I love the fact in the background, somewhere down there, there's a pretty cool rock band playing. Maybe just playing in a pub, maybe in their basement or in their house. I don't know, but it's pretty cool. But this gives you the sort of idea of just how vast and how big Ankara is. This is the old citadel that I'm sort of standing on top of right now. Sort of old fortress that way, Ankara Castle. And the sun's sort of slowly going down. And it's quite phenomenal. So I'm staying in a small hotel somewhere over here because somewhere here because my bedroom overlooks that mosque from a distance. So somewhere between there.
Seyretmiş oldum. Bak buradan böyle anlarım. Bir kaçtın Batuhan. Sen yoksun. Şuraya yapalım işte.
So I couldn't really decide. I didn't know if it was the citadel, just the top of it, or actually part of the Ankara castle, but I think this is Ankara castle, just here. But I could be wrong, because according to TripAdvisor it's on the completely different end of the map. So Google is saying this is Ankara castle and TripAdvisor is saying Ankara castle is that way. I'm probably sure that TripAdvisor is wrong again. It's kind of like a barbecue going on down here, you see this? But it's actually surprisingly amazing views, as you saw. There's sadly a lot of litter basically chucked over the walls, lots of bottles. It's sad that tourists and locals think they can bring their bottles up and just throw them everywhere. It seems to be a theme I've seen in Turkey. Litter just thrown out of cars, litter thrown out as people walking on by. Litter just total disregard for the environment. It's sad, but what a beautiful place if you ignore the litter. Wow. Right here, I think this is sheep fur basically drying out. It's certainly not cat fur, but it smells really good. It's been scented with spices or something. It surprisingly smells good.
Yeah. Brian, I'm going to be honest with you. That smells like pure gasoline.
They've done studies, you know. 60% of the time, it works every time. So amazing, just walking down these sort of tiny little streets that are inside the citadel, and here you can see the citadel walls, effectively like an old town that was secure. You know, you can still see the sort of bow and arrow sort of turrets that are sort of, you know, used to protect the city. And this is before Ankara became a sort of a massive urban sprawl that it is. But it's a town inside, or a little village inside a massive city, and there's still life going on in there. Mega. I envisioned this would be nice. This is obviously capable of holding a lot of water, and then there's going to be a lot of fountains, and then look at this, there's a fairground in the distance. Sadly, all of the fountains I've seen today haven't been on. Maybe they knew I was coming or something, but I can see that potentially it could be very nice.
Inform the commander that Lord Vader's shuttle has arrived.
Early the next morning.
So a typical sort of Turkish breakfast served up is lots of fruit, Turkish bread, and then this is actually the really good bit. Check this out. So you got sort of random bits of meat, cheeses, always olives. There's so many olives to choose from. To be honest, I prefer these ones because then you don't have to sort of de-stone them. But that's just me being a little bit lazy. But there's normally about 8 different olives to choose from, and then there's these sort of vegetables. It's very nice. And then obviously a Turkish coffee, except today it's not. It's just I'll be honest, it's just Nescafe. There's a bit of product placement for you, Nescafe. But yeah, good breakfast. Hey, so here I am at Ankara's biggest and effectively newest mosque. I'm not sure if it is the newest, but it's certainly the biggest. It was built in 1967. I'm convinced more mosques have been built since then, but this is the biggest one in Ankara. It's a little bit out of the way. It's to the south side of the city. I hope that the big walk up a hill, where I can up a load of steps, was worth it. I'm going to try and go in this one. Hopefully I can wash my feet, because after all this walking, I have to admit, a little stinky. But normally outside mosques you can wash your feet. I think I need to go into one of the side bathrooms. Of course you can wash your feet, you have to wash your feet. So let's go check this out.
Two hours later.
I just popped into a mall for well, a little bit escape from the heat. It's currently 40 and it's hot. Well, 40 is hot. But one thing I've noticed, and it's prolific, it's day and night. You will be hard pressed to find a woman that's not wearing jeans or a very long skirt. No one is wearing short skirts. No one is wearing dresses. I think in total, I've seen 2 women in total, and I think they were tourists. One of the frustrating things about Ankara, just some areas are a little bit difficult to get to. They worship the car a little bit too much, not pedestrian friendly in some parts. Hey, so I've just arrived at basically their modern art gallery. I think it's called the Sina Modern, a little bit like London's Tate Modern. It turns out the gallery is closed. However, I just went to speak to the reception and say, is there anyone around? And then I spoke to one of the curators.
I'm fine, my name is Serge, and how can I help you?
And the curator said, you know, I asked me where I'd come from. I said, I'm doing a little bit of YouTube. Yes, I even pulled that one off. And they're gonna let me in. So I'm gonna get the whole gallery to myself. So this will be, I hope there's something to see. So I thought I was literally just come all this way for nothing, but it turns out I'm about to get let in.
Gans, come and look, come and look. This is my booth.
found myself in a private gallery slash museum. The museum focuses on Roman archaeological finds, and the gallery down here focuses on some amazing art, actually, sculptures from various different places. This almost looks alien. It's the only thing, I'm drawn to this. Love to know what it is. But speaking of alien, look at this. This humanoid female alien, or just a female?
If you ever find yourself in Ankara, I urge you to visit this museum, the Anadolu Museum. It's possibly one of Turkey's finest museums, and it was certainly the finest museum I saw in Ankara. I was blown away by some of the artifacts in this museum. One of the artifacts we're literally about to see in the next image to this one is a T-shaped obelisk by the Göbekli Tepe civilization. And this civilization is thought to be at least 13,000 years old. The obelisks exhibit pictures that illustrate that the Earth may have been potentially impacted by many, many meteorites, or one big meteorite wiping out an entire human civilization in the northern hemisphere, potentially resetting Earth's civilization. Look where the arrow is pointing. I'm rushing here a little bit. Handbags similar to the ancient Sumerian handbags carried by the gods back 3,000 to 4,000 years later. What were these handbags? Potentially computers, potentially portal devices, you name it. There's a lot of theories on ancient astronaut theories that suggest that they were something important, similar to the iPhones we carry today, but obviously capable of doing so much more. I'll read this quote. I think this research, along with the recent finding of the widespread platinum anomaly across North American continent, virtually seal the case in favour of a comet's impact. Our work serves to reinforce the physical evidence. What is happening here is a process of a paradigm change, basically showing that human civilization was potentially changed 13,000 years ago, and Göbekli Tepe proves this. My videos feature a lot of obelisks, and this is actually a T-shaped obelisk. It's from the Neolithic period, if you can believe that. And yeah, I do believe that.
Now, many of these pillars have remarkable carvings on them, wonderful carvings and bas-reliefs of animals, birds, insects, all kinds of things. So to fashion those and carve them and set them up in these structures was just absolutely amazing.
But it's rare to see something like this. If you can see the ceremonial sort of ways these obelisks took, they used them. Almost like a sort of Stonehenge, but a lot more primitive. Carvings of strange animals on the obelisks, all male animals as well, which is interesting. But it shows that the people back then believed that animals were important. It's a shame we can't have the same sort of thinking today, especially what I saw in the pet shop. But this is certainly an interesting find.
Is it possible that primitive hunter-gatherers could have built such sophisticated megalithic structures? Ancient astronaut theorists say no.
And this museum dedicated everything to archaeological from the Anatolian region, which is effectively all of Turkey and the surrounding area. So I'm excited to see what else they have so far. And I've only been in one room so far. I'm impressed. Here is the goddess that we saw in my Izmir video at the Museum of Artemis. But look at this next figure. I don't think this god would be out of place in a sci-fi movie, or this one either. What do you think?
The only way the ancient astronaut theory can be disproven is when the extraterrestrials show up.
So that was the Museum of Anatolian History. Really interesting. Some amazing artifacts. We go back all from the Neolithic all the way to sort of 200, maybe 300 AD, but thousands and thousands of years of history. What I found interesting are the sort of the goddess representations. And god representations. Notice the big eyes and a lot of these figurines. Interesting how civilizations all over the world represent gods with big eyes, very big eyes, and the same. And in modern times, people who have been alien abductees claim they've seen aliens with very big eyes. Now, make your own conclusions there. Is it just a coincidence, or potentially have people been seeing the same creatures for thousands and thousands of years? In the past they were seen as gods. In the present they're seen as extraterrestrials, which they probably are, unless of course they could be interdimensional beings from another dimension or something. Either way, there's too much evidence to suggest these creatures do not exist. Of course they exist. The question is, who knows about it? Who's really telling the truth? And can our history, which you can discover in places like this, tell us a little bit more about what is potentially going on? I know I detract from what the museum is. By the way, the museum costs 20 liras to get into. In my opinion, it's well worth it. 20 liras, obviously, when you come, the prices may go up next week, the prices may go up in 6 months. There's a lot of inflation in Turkey right now. But today's exchange rate, 20 liras is just under $4. Incredibly good value, but the price of what a museum should be. I actually go see this. It's a nice exhibition, a nice museum.
15 minutes later.
I'm just about to do a Turkish bath. So the last time I was in Istanbul, I figured if you're in the capital, let's do this one. This one seems to be a lot more basic, but let's see what happens.
2 hours later.
So I just had my hammam, Turkish bath, sauna, steam room, probably about 5 different showers, soaked down, scrubbed, then I had drink, and all for a princely sum of 50. And yeah, it was nice. It wasn't as good as the one in Istanbul, I'll be honest, but it was nice. And I think I can't remember the price of Istanbul one. I have to review the video, but this one seemed very cheap. 50 was good. You know, for 50 I'm happy. Nobody spoke a word of English though, so for me it was sign language until the end. Then there was a customer that spoke English, but I give this place like a 7 out of 10. There's the information there.
İçecek yoktu değil mi? Var değil mi? lira, 3 lira, 5 lira. Ben anlamadım ki nasıl oldu. Tamam, 5 lira, 5 lira, 5 lira, 5 lira, 5 lira. Hayır ya, son ne olacak? Allah.
So here we are in the sort of second-hand market, a little bit crazy, almost like a trading floor in a way. Standing over here, almost like he is a little bit like an East End geezer, but Turkish style. Very, very noisy, but as you can see, this place is massive. You see, huge, huge place. So I wanted a doner kebab. I know. I normally don't eat meat. I eat meat generally every 8-9 days. But when in Rome, when in Ankara, I do as the Turks do. And the biggest thing they do over here is doner kebab. So I went for 2 types of doner kebab. For this one here and this one here. Completely different from the late night doner kebab you remember when you're a teenager or any drunk night. This is exceptional, and then he gave me all this free stuff. I kid you not. I'm sure. Let's see what happens when I get the bill. But literally, he goes, "Oh, you must try this. Must try this. Must try this." So I guess he's expecting a big tip.